Good morning. Paul and I are here to unveil the WebRec requisition application that Central Nervous Systems has built specifically for MISys Manufacturing. So it's simple, but it's slick, and Paul is going to run us through how it works. Fire away, Paul.
All right, thanks, Fitz. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the screen here. So what you'll see is that we have two things up on the screen. On the right-hand side here, I have the web requisition software login screen. On the left side, I've got MISys, and I've got both of those open because we're going to go into WebRec. We're going to requisition some products. We're then going to approve them. After we approve them, we're then going to buy them, and then we're going to go into MISys and see where we've added a purchase order so that we can see that we're actually putting the purchase order into MISys so it can be released there and sent to our supplier. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to log into MISys or into WebRec here. This is my same MISys username and password that I use in MISys. Put in my password. And what that'll do is that'll pop me out onto the approval screen because I happen to be a requisitioner and an approver. So the first place it goes is approvals. In this particular case, though, what I want to do is I want to requisition something. So I'm going to click on requisition. And what you're going to see on the screen here is that there is a whole lot of little boxes and things that we got to fill out. But the things that we want to pay attention to are up the top part of the screen. I have a number of search boxes up here. One of them is reference, one of them is supplier. They'll work independently or they'll work together. I also have a search box for bills and materials here where I can select an item in the BOM revision and I can buy the items that are on that list. Or I can use a search of the description and the item number in the search box on the right-hand side, just above the item list. So I'm going to hop in there and we're going to have a look at that. So first I'm going to go into the reference field and I'm going to put in wire. And what that's going to do is anything that has wire in the reference field will become part of my list here, and anything that doesn't have wire in the reference field will not be in the list.
That's a reference field on the item, is it?
That's a reference field on the item master in MISys. I can also, if I don't want to search by reference, but I want to search by supplier, I can go in there and I can put in a supplier number, and it will limit the results to just those items for whom this supplier is a qualified supplier in MISys. And if I want to, I can also work the two together, so I could have not only supplier 2150, but wire. And what that would do is limit it to wire from that supplier. And in this case, there's only one wire that's from supplier 2150, and that is the IO1. And so maybe we'll use the IO1 as our example here. Now what you'll see on the screen is you'll see currently there's purchase units of spools for this item, an order quantity of 5, and the conversion is 1,000 feet per spool. And the last cost that we saw for the item was 14 cents. When we go and requisition this, it's actually going to go and look up information based on the qualified supplier as opposed to just the defaults that are in MISys. So when I click this button, it's going to add it to my list at the bottom down here, and you'll notice that what it's done is it's gone and it's checked, pulled in the item. The standard order is 5 spools of 1,000 feet, but the last cost has been changed to 50 cents because it's no longer using the last cost for the item in MISys, it's using the last cost for this particular supplier. So it's actually looking up the correct price from the supplier in order to put it in here. And it's filled in the Exide Industrial Batteries is the supplier that we want to use here. Now another thing you'll notice is that down on the bottom down here, I've got a red dot. This red dot means that I'm above my purchase limit. And so as a requisitioner, I have a $500 limit. In this particular case, this is $2,500 worth of product, so it's made this red. And that's really letting me know that when I submit this, it's not going to go direct to a buyer. This is going to go to my approver first. And if it's approved, then it's going to go to the buyer. And that's because I'm over my limit here. Another thing you'll notice, there's a required date here. 8/16/2018. I may decide that I want to choose a different date for that. I click the little down arrow, pulls up a calendar here. Maybe I want it for next Friday. Click the 23rd. I think that was Friday. No, that was Thursday. Next Friday is 24th. And maybe I want to reference a specific job here. And so I want to put this on Engineering 02. Once I've filled in the right information for this particular requisition, I can then click Post Requisition, and that's going to send that off for approval. Now you notice that it took it off the list. There's no more items down at the bottom of my list down here, and it's cleared all my search screens up here. So now I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log back in as somebody who has authority to actually approve me. And again, these are MISys username and passwords that I'm using. Log in as the administrator, go into approvals, choose the person that I'm approving, and there's that IO one that I talked about. Now, I may decide, because I'm the purchaser, that we don't really need 5 of these. I know that I've already got 1 or 2 on order, but I see that I need some more, so I'm going to click the approve button here, and what that's going to do is that's going to send it through. If I happen to know that this is going to need to be changed, buyer has the ability to make the change. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approve this. So that's going to take it off my list. Now, if I'd had a whole list of 20 or 30 items and I'd gone through and checked them all and I was happy with it, I could click the all button instead of clicking one by one. And as soon as I did that approval, it actually sent an email to me saying that that item, that requisition had been approved and who it was approved by, so that I know that it's moving along in the process. So now I've done the approval. I can hop over here to buy if I happen to be a buyer. And you'll notice that I have those 5 that I just put in there at 50 cents per from MISys batteries over here. Now, if I want to, at this point as a buyer, I can make that change that I was talking about earlier. Maybe I want to edit that. And I want to make this 4, or maybe I only need 3 of these. I can update that. That changes this to 3. And if I want to, I can then buy that item by clicking buy. If I wanted to, I can also go in here, like let's say that I can see here I've got 2 lines, both for the same project, for the same item. I might go in here and I might reject this first one and say, you have 2 requisitions for this. I am only approving 1. And when I click submit, what that'll do is that'll send that item back to the person that requisitioned it, saying that this was rejected, and it will have there'll be an email that says why that was, in addition to it being in the comment field for the requisitioner. And now that I've done that, I look at this list and I go, yep, this looks pretty good. I'm going to approve those 3 that I was looking at previously. Click the buy button here. Now when I click the buy button, that'll take it off the list, because now that's no longer on my list. It's now been pushed through. And if I was to go over here and now, remember that was MISys batteries. I don't have any purchase orders to them here right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click the refresh button here, and you notice that I now have a purchase order in here to MISys Industrial Batteries. Inactive, so I can go in and make changes to it if I want. I can double click it, open it up, have a look at what was added to that. You can see here I've got that order of 3 spools of 1,000. It's filled in all the correct information, and if I wanted to, I could open that PO and then send it. Now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to take you back to the requisition screen to show you one of the other features that we haven't really looked at yet. I'm going to go here, I'm going to log off, I'm going to log back in as that Paul guy. Put my password in. And this time, when I go to requisitions, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm actually going to check a bomb, because maybe I want to be able to just buy all the items that are on a bill of materials. So if I go I-50 in this and I choose a revision, we're at 0. You'll notice that what it's done now is it's pulled up all of the parts for the I-50. And it's actually gone down through all the levels of the bill of material to buy all the raw materials that are required. In fact, I have a couple of pages worth of stuff for this. And if I go over here and I click on page 2, you'll notice it gives me the second page worth of items that I need to buy. Now, when I go up and I click in here, I can actually determine the quantity of the item, quantity of I-50s that I want to buy for. So if I was making 10 of them and put 10 in there, I can then go request all over here. And what it's going to do is it's going to make sure that my purchasing is enough to cover 10 units. Now it's going to do some math in the background. You know, my normal purchase of this I-24 is a bag of 1,000. Well, if I'm using 4 per, then I probably am not going to really require that many. I'm going to need 40 of them, so it's only going to buy 1 bag. But I'm going to go in here, I'm going to click the request all, and what you'll see is that when I do that, down at the bottom of the screen, it's now added all the items that are required for that particular I-50 that I identified up at the top up here. I scroll down here, I have all those items on my list. Now, you'll also notice that the item that got rejected from our previous run, this IO1 here, is here as well, saying you have 2 requisitions for this, I'm only approving 1. I go, oh, geez, I forgot I requisitioned these yesterday, so I'm going to delete this one. And I'm only going to have the list of items that we had for these previously. And so now you can see I've actually got a list here of all the different things that I'm buying that I need for the I-50. And with all those items, it's $559.50. So that's over my limit. So again, when I post this requisition, what we're going to find is that these items that are going through are going to go through, and they're going to have to go for approval first. And so I posted that requisition. I go to approvals. I can't approve myself, so I'm going to log off here. Log in as my approver again. When I log in as my approver, I can then go in and I can choose myself, the Paul guy, and I can look through and I can see, okay, here's all the stuff that that guy wanted to buy. If I click next here, we're going to see that I've got everything that's in that list. Now, in some cases, these are set up so that, you know, the castings, for instance, I'm making 10 units, so it's ordered 10 of them, and I buy them in eaches. In other cases, I buy them in boxes of 100, so I'm only buying 1 box of 100 items. And so it's done the math for me already to make sure I've got the right stuff. If I wanted to, I could click approve all here, and that's going to take everything in my list, push it all through. You see it says 17 requisitions are approved here. And it sent me an email with a big list of all that stuff that said, here's all the things that you requisitioned, and they were all approved. And then I could carry on. I could go to the buy screen the same way I did before. And here's all of that big long list of items that I had that I needed to buy. And if I wanted to, I could click buy all, and now it's going to buy a bunch of purchase orders as long as I have a supplier. And one of the things you'll notice is that this I-38 up at the top up here, he doesn't have a supplier. And because it doesn't have a qualified supplier, I'm going to have to go into MISys and qualify a supplier for him before I can push this through and get it actually into a purchase order. But everything else that's on this list should go through and get a PO. If I click buy all here, give it a couple of seconds. Here it says create POs for 18 items, but it tells me I had 2 line items, both I-38. Obviously, I had one pending from a previous requisition, and both of these need to be set up with a supplier first. I guess just the one I-38 needs to be set up with a supplier so that I have the ability to go through and actually order that.
That's good. I like that.
Well, it keeps us from buying things we're not allowed to buy from people we're not allowed to buy them from. So now, if I was to go over here into MISys and refresh again, what you'll see is that there's now a list of purchase orders for all of those different suppliers for all those items that I needed over here in order to supply those I-50s. And if I go up to here, you'll notice I actually have another purchase order for Xi. And the reason for that is that this particular order doesn't have the same job number. And so one of the things that it does is it splits out the purchase orders by job to make sure that we don't mix the two up. So that's about all I had to say about that, other than there is a little bit of administration built into this. I'll just show you really quickly the role screen. The role screen is here so that you can set up what people can do. If I was to go down, and I'm the admin right now, so I'm going to look at that Paul guy. He has a $500 limit, which is why I kept having to get stuff approved. Admin is his approver. And here you can see the things that he's allowed to do. He can self-approve if he needs to. He's a requisitioner or a buyer. He can actually adjust the roles the same way as the administrator. And he can check other approvers. And this box down here is why you saw me when I was doing approvals. I was going in and selecting who the approver was. And this is so that if somebody happens to be on vacation, somebody can still go in and do the approvals for them without them being on the property. And so this is where I maintain those things.
That's nice.
That's all I've got for the web requisition here. I'm going to log off. And any final words, Fitz?
Nope, just I think that was pretty thorough, but if anybody has any questions, wants to take a closer look, get in touch. Contact information's on the screen. Thanks, Paul.
All right. Thanks, folks. We'll talk to you later.